Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Paul, and welcome to another episode of TrekJitsu. TrekJitsu is brought to you by Matrix. Matrix is a jiu-jitsu streaming service that we are trying to bring to you guys to showcase sparring footage from all over the world. We would love to have footage from your training sessions, so please share Matrix with your training partners and with yourself. So to check out Matrix, please go to youtube.com/showyourrole. Again, youtube.com/showyourrole. My guest today is Ruadhan Mac Fadden. Ruadhan is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he travels extensively. Ruadhan is our first repeat guest. He was on the podcast a few months ago talking about traveling to Svalbard up near the Arctic Circle. Along with talking about all of his travels that he's been doing all over the world to train jiu-jitsu and see some awesome places. So Ruadhan just got back from Kazakhstan, and he was over there to do some hiking, some traveling, and he got to train some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it was really great having Ruadhan on the show again. So please welcome my friend Ruadhan Mac Fadden. Ruadhan, what's up? It's really good to have you on the show again.
Cool, it's good to be back. As of this, Kaiserslautern is a good bit closer than either Oberstein, so 50 minutes away, no better way to spend a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, how does it feel to be TrekJitsu's first ever repeat guest?
That's true, I was just trying to think about that on my way over. Was I the first repeat guest? So yeah, it's honoured that at least some people might be interested in slightly more than 90 minutes of bullshit.
They sure are. Like on our last episode, we had quite a positive response. Like people still message me and they're like, that Irish guy you had on your podcast is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I remember we were looking at the show statistics afterwards, and like the statistics as in the countries that they were downloading from. And it was like, Germany, US, Canada, Ireland, the typical. But there was one like unidentified region that's just, I don't know, like someone in some American territory, like someone based in Guam or whatever, or it's like some kind of disputed territory, but there was one download that didn't even have a country attached to it. So like, who the fuck was that? So if you're out there by any means, and if you're listening again, please let us know where you're based, because I'm a geography geek and I want to know where this unidentified territory is.
You're probably a hit over there. You're probably like a local legend.
Basically,
the podcast, like maybe it's like
billboards or something.
Yeah, it's probably like an island of like 3 people, and they were just able to get like enough Wi-Fi signal. They're like, well, one podcast is all we have.
Yeah, basically. So no, I'm curious to see if that particular region pops up again and we can narrow down. It's like, who the fuck was that?
Yeah.
But thanks for having me back. Glad to be here.
So you just got back from Kazakhstan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, got back about a month ago now. I think I'm sort of losing track of time, but yeah, it was about a month ago. And interesting place. Like, it was my first ever actually kind of accidental destination. Accidental in the sense that I hadn't initially planned to go there at all, really, or certainly not as a permanent destination. I wanted to go to Mongolia.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been I get a lot of my travel ideas from books, like just basically whatever I'm reading at the moment. If it happens to be about a particular country or region of the world, that usually sparks my interest. And I say, hey, fucking let's go and see this place firsthand. And last year I had been reading a lot of books about Genghis Khan. Mm-hmm. So like listen to the Dan Carlin podcast, like Wrath of the Khans. Yeah.
The best.
Would really recommend that for anyone who's like in any way interested in like, Central Asian or Mongol history. Wrath of the Khans, Dan Carlin. It's 5-part podcast, 6-part, I think.
Yep. 4 hours each episode, 5 episodes.
very in-depth, very
incredible.
Interesting. So that, listen to that. There was a few books, like there was, Jack Weatherford has a book called, Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. He has a follow-up, I think, called The Secret History of the Mongol Queens. So yeah, basically I was reading, a few books about like Central Asian history and, Mongolia more specifically. And I said, hey, fucking, why not go and check it out firsthand? So I booked flights from Frankfurt via Kazakhstan. Just went to Skyscanner and I was like, okay, let's see how you get there. And just happened to be the route, the cheapest route or the most realistic route. So it was Frankfurt via Astana, which is the new capital of Kazakhstan. I had a 24-hour layover in Astana and then on to Mongolia. So I said, yeah, fuck it. Okay, let's book that. So my original destination was Mongolia. That was it. Like I would have, basically an afternoon to go and check out Astana, but that was it. Just back to the airport and keep going. And then I got an email from the airline a few months later saying, oh, by the way, we've cancelled this Astana to Mongolia flight. That sucks. Yeah, it was. They didn't say why. I'm not sure if it was problems with the permits.
Reasons unknown.
Reasons unknown. Yeah, it's like the right airport official didn't get his bribe that month or whatever the story. So they just said, no, sorry, flight is cancelled. And they gave me two options. They said, listen, we can give you a refund for that flight specifically, or we can try and reroute you then from Astana through Russia to Mongolia, or through South Korea, I think was another option, or through Turkey, which is like going back fucking, 3 hours in the wrong direction. Yeah. So I considered that briefly, but I thought, look, if you go through Russia, for instance, that's going to be a third visa that I need. Regardless of where I go, it's going to be more travel time and I'll have less time on the ground. So eventually I just said, nah, fuck it. It's not worth it. I don't want to be spending like 3 days on each side, just in airports and trying to make connections. So I said, nah, look, I'll stay in Kazakhstan. I checked that out for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks instead. So, as basically an accidental destination. It was not somewhere that I had planned on spending like an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. But, I guess I'm glad I did, because otherwise, it would, maybe it would be a place that I would have ended up eventually, but certainly wouldn't have been top of my list. So the whole, that airport official not getting his bribe kind of, worked out in my favor. Maybe I still want to get back to fucking Mongolia.
Yeah, I want to go there too.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
I want to go there too, for sure.
Yeah. So, because it was accidental in that sense, like I didn't really have the same, like I had no itinerary at all. Yeah. For Mongolia, I was like, okay, I want to go here. I want to do this hike. I want to see this old, like Mongol, encampment, like the site of their old capital city. Kazakhstan was kind of like, well, right, blank slate. Mm-hmm. I'm landing in Astana and I'm flying out of Astana and I got like 2 weeks. So where am I going to go and what am I going to do?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a intimidating adventure in a way, like with no plan.
Yeah, I mean, complete freedom in a sense as well, which was good. I wanted to do a hike when I was there. I wanted to kind of get out onto the steppe and see what the open steppe was like. Wanted to train when I was there, if at all possible. So try and find like some local BJJ wrestling club, whatever. Just check out a few museums, get a feel for the country, get a feel for, the society and everything. Basically, yeah. So, I did kind of leave it until the last minute, like basically a week beforehand. I was there like, will I bring my tent? Will I not bring my tent? Will I do a day hike? Will I spend a few nights in the mountains? So I did sort of leave it to the last minute in terms of planning, but eventually settled on, spend a few days in Astana, get the train down, like all the way across the steppes, across the country to Almaty, which is the old capital. Do a hike up into the mountains there. Train in one of the locations, depending, and basically whoever replied to my message, that was kind of that would be the deciding factor. It's like, fuck, who answers me? Train there once or twice, museum, see what the food is like and so on. And that's basically what I did. Yeah. So landed in Astana, trying to figure out like how the train system worked. Took some time, because like the train system in Kazakhstan and all of Central Asia, basically anywhere in Central Asia that's not Afghanistan, the rail system was set up by the Russians or the Soviets. Mm-hmm. So, like, I have never been on a long distance train in Russia, but I'm told like Central Asia is basically, it's the same. It's the same, you know, old carriages. It's the same kind of train culture. So I guess if anyone has ever been on, you know, like the Trans-Siberian Express, then, you know, trains in Kazakhstan, you know, you've probably gotten a good preview there already. Yeah. So, you know, the distances are so huge. Like Kazakhstan is massive. It's 7 times, I think 8 times bigger than Germany. Huge amount of like, just like open steppe and grassland and very few people, like 16 million people. So one of the lowest population densities in the world. And train is probably the most realistic way and most affordable way for people to get around. Yeah. Because like the roads, I think out on the open steppe between cities, like not that good / non-existent, depending on the time of year, what the weather is like. So people, it's the train, you know, if you want to get from city to city, you get the train. And it's, yeah, the old, like the Russian system. So you have different levels of tickets. You can get, like the cheapest one is what's called Platzkart. And that's just like an open carriage with bunks in it. Oh. So there might be, I don't know, 25 people, 25 bunks in an open carriage. And you've got your own bunk, obviously, but you got, you know, you don't have a room or you don't have a booth per se. It's just open train carriage with, you know, whoever else happens to be traveling that day. The one above that is Kupa, which is more of a compartment. So there'd be 4 beds, bunks, whatever you want to call them there. Little bit more expensive, but, you know, still like the equivalent of like 20 euro, 25 euro, not that much. Bad. And then the first class one is called Lux, and that's, I think, a 2-person compartment. So again, a little bit more privacy and a little bit more expensive. So, you know, you buy your tickets and yeah, you're going to have company. Like that's part of the whole train culture is, it's meeting other people and mingling with other people and sharing food. Yeah. And sharing drink is like a really kind of important aspect of it. And I said there was a book out there that I read about a year or so ago. I cannot remember the name of the author. I think his name is David something or other. But the book is called Midnight in Siberia. And it's about a train journey that he does across Russia. And it's not about the train journey per se. Like he doesn't go into a huge amount of detail about this is how it works. It's more about the places that he stops along the way. But because he travels by train, you get this nice little just kind of, you know, sort of supplementary info about how it works. And he says, yeah, like that's it. Like, you know, everyone gets on. They bring like delicacies from their hometown, like nice like sausage or pastries or vodka or whatever. And you share that with your, you know, your
people in the cabin.
Yeah, your traveling companions. Because I mean, like in Russia in particular, like you could be on that train for 4 days, 5 days with these people. Wow, so, you know, crazy. You form like a relationship with them. You don't just kind of like sit there and read a book or whatever. Like, you know, you play cards, you'll, you know, swap stories, you'll swap food. So it's a very, like, it's a social experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, Kazakhstan is the same as, every little stop. And in this journey that I did, now it was 21 hours from Astana in the north down to Almaty.
It's a long train.
It's long, yeah. It's, they're not that fast.
Yeah.
I guess they're pretty old. Like it's like the cars over there. Like everything is kind of like gas guzzler with like a cloud of black smoke trailing after it. So it doesn't go too fast. Like you don't expect, you know, like the ICE or the, you know, anything high speed. Like it's just like the train, I think, moves or it sways horizontally as much as it moves forward.
Wow.
And so 21 hours from Astana.
That's a long time. Did you get motion sickness?
No, I don't generally.
No.
I think I got seasick once as a kid, but in general, like trains now, I'm fine.
Okay.
Or
that's good.
Stuff like that. So, but I guess that might be a danger, if you've got a dodgy stomach, because I mean,
like going back and forth.
You need your fucking sea legs at times, like when you're walking up and down the little corridor, and you know you're banging off the walls half the time, so it's not that stable.
Jeez.
But interesting experience. Like I had a booth mate, Kazakh guy called, I think Asselbeck was his name. And, you know, it just goes to show that, like, in many regards, like, language is just unnecessary. Yeah. Because, like, I speak fuck all Russian. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, 20 words, and it's usually, like, this is the kind of coffee that I want, please. And,
Blet.
Yeah, basically. And then when I got back, there was one of our teammates was competing at the ADCCs in Mainz there recently. Mm-hmm. And she speaks Russian. So I was like, listen, man, I'm going to coach you in Russian. Really loud, you know, dramatic, vociferous Russian. And your opponents think like I'm going to be giving you like top secret information. Whereas in fact, yeah, I'm basically just ordering a coffee and shouting random animal names. Like that's the extent of my Russian. And he spoke fuck all English. Yeah. You know, he had like 2 or 3 words and that was it. But we were basically able to hold an extended, you know, conversation, inverted commas, for 6 or 7 hours. Just, you know, you get like a little bit of common vocabulary, a lot of pointing, you know, miming, drawing pictures. Like, you know, he was asking, I don't know how we even got onto this. Like he was trying to ask me what kind of animals we have in Ireland. So I was drawing pictures of sheep and, you know, miming the sound of chickens and things like this. So, you know, we were able to have, again, you know...
That sounds like fun.
Unquote, yeah, it's good. I mean, it's tiring as well because you're constantly, like, thinking, like, how do I convey this concept in the most simple way possible? But, yeah, like, great little insight into, his life. And, you know, I had a 21-hour journey. He had, I think, a journey like 3 times that long.
Oh, wow.
He was crazy. Coming from a place in the west called... It's over near the Aral Sea anyway. I can't remember the name of the actual town, but he had to come from there all the way to Astana and then down to Almaty. He was coming to visit his family. So, I mean, you're talking probably 3-day journey altogether, like crazy. One way just to get there. Long. Yeah. And he was, he was a great example of just the whole food sharing, you know, the generosity of this whole train experience, because there was only, I think, maybe 3 stops along the way. But the first one, like, as soon as the train pulls up, you have vendors outside with, like, you know, chickens, you know, cooked chickens rather than live chickens, like beef jerky, pastries, you know, just like food. Yeah. And fish, like they all have big racks of fish. So I had stocked up on food beforehand, like, you know, fucking shitty supermarket stuff. Yeah. I was just like, oh shit, okay, it's a 21-hour train journey. I need something. So I had, you know, just like stuff that was easy to carry, like biscuits, and I had some beef jerky and tea bags. Like that's actually a really good tip, is if you're ever taking a long distance train in Russia or Central Asia, at the end of every carriage you have what's called a samovar, which is a hot water container.
Oh, cool.
So you have basically unlimited boiling water.
Oh, great.
So if you bring, I don't know, like soup powder or instant noodles or tea bags, you know, you just go down to the end of the carriage, you fill up your bowl, fill up your cup, whatever, and, you know, you have essentially an infinite supply of tea or noodles or soup or whatever. So I just brought, like, really simple stuff. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll share it out. But the first stop, you know, the vendors, like, he disappears for 15 minutes or so, and I just go out and get some fresh air and stretch my legs. And then I come back and I find he's just, like, bought this feast basically of, you know, chicken and pastries and tea and ice cream, actually, which was something I wasn't expecting.
How did you get that?
I have no fucking idea. I was like, I don't know where this came from, but hey, it looks okay. And then, he insisted that I share it with him. You know, he said, and he was like, this is the proper order to eat it in, like chicken, then take a bite of this, and it mixes really well together. And this is some tea, like, that I brought from my hometown. So just, like, complete generosity. Like, you know, I was the guest. I was feeling guilty at that point because I was rooting around my bag thinking, oh shit, what do I have to contribute? And I was like, I have this, like, 50-cent beef jerky, and I guess I have, like, 2 biscuits. So the
finest beef jerky from the supermarkets of Ireland.
Yeah, kind of.
Jack Links.
Kind of. I was Jack Links. I was trying to think, like, shit, I should have brought, like, a bottle of whiskey or something. Although, if I remember right, he says there's no booze allowed.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, I found surprising because I've heard stories of, like, passengers on these long trains just getting absolutely blitzed.
Maybe they were having problems with it and they had abandoned it.
I would guess, yeah. You know? So he actually, because the reason it came up is because he bought 2 bottles of beer. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But then, we opened the beer and he's like, oh no, don't leave it on the table. Like, we basically kind of like had to hide behind a book.
Oh yeah.
And I think he was trying to convey, it's like, listen, if the conductor sees it, then she's going to take it and you might even get a fine.
Yeah.
So,
no good.
Yeah, basically, I guess, because from what I've heard, like, I don't know if you remember that, there was a Vice documentary where Shane Smith went off to, the Russian border with North Korea to try and find like these migrant workers. Like basically North Korea was...
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's worth it.
I'll have to watch that because I love Vice.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I find Vice, they kind of sensationalize things. Like I take a lot of their stuff with a pinch of salt, but this one was quite interesting. And basically what it was is the North Korean government, which has been proven, is they essentially sell slaves, laborers to countries like Russia to work in like the forestry industry. They sell them to some Middle Eastern countries to work on construction sites. That's a nice little source of income for the government.
Yeah,
and the workers have no idea where they are. They have no say because they're political prisoners. Essentially.
Yeah, that's no good.
Not really, no. So that particular documentary, Shane Smith and I think Simon Ostrowski went off and they were again taking like 3-day train after 3-day train after 4-day train way off into the wilds of Russia near the North Korean border to try and find one of these labor camps. And basically 5 minutes into the journey, they were having trouble with like drunken passengers who had just like been knocking back vodka for 2 days and just wanted to start a fight with someone. So like I've heard that happens quite a lot. Yeah. Like when you've got 21 hours or more,
you get a little bored.
Yeah, you get a little bored, and all of a sudden, you've got like, hey, well, I could just buy this bottle of vodka for €2, and that might keep me entertained. And then arguments kick off and fist fights kick off. So like that is probably why they had this more sort of restrictive.
It's probably good. It's probably good.
Yeah, no, I mean the last thing you want is like you're trying to just like fucking get to your destination. You're trying to get to sleep, and you have some just rambunctious fuck like at the end of the carriage, like pushing people around. So I've no problem with that at all. I just found it surprising.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my booth mate Asselbeck. I really hope I'm getting his name right. He wrote it down. I think I had a bar of chocolate, and we took off like the cardboard out, and that's where I was like drawing my sheep, and I was writing my name down, and I was trying to write it in Cyrillic so that he could pronounce it, and he wrote his name down. So I do have it at home somewhere, but I'm pretty sure his name is Asselbeck. If there are any Kazakhs out there just like fucking tearing their hair out, it's like, no, that's not how you pronounce it. For fuck's sake, I apologize.
What's the language like in Kazakhstan?
There's two main languages there, like the Kazakh language itself, which first of all, in terms of population, 16 million people, 75% roughly of those are ethnic Kazakh. Mm-hmm. So Central Asian, think Mongolian, like roughly in terms of appearance and culture and background and language. 25% roughly are ethnic Russians. So apparently the term for someone like a citizen of Kazakhstan, the term, if I remember right, is Kazakhstani. Mm-hmm. And Kazakh specifically refers to the ethnic group, which comprises 75% of the population. And there's two main languages. There's the Kazakh language and there's Russian. Mm. So Kazakh itself is tough. It's a Turkic language. Mm. So I think if you speak a Turkic language, like Turkish, I suppose would be the most obvious one, then you might be able to spot some similarities there. There's a book I read by this guy called Ruadhan Mac Fadden. It's called The Old Ways or The Wild Ways or something about that. It's basically just about walking and hiking. And he gives his experiences on like walking some of the really old wild routes around England. And just in a little aside throughout one of his chapters, he's telling the story about his grandfather, and his grandfather, I think, was involved in British intelligence back in the early 20th century. So, Central Asia was early 20th century, late 19th century. Central Asia was a very kind of a hairy place. Like it was where Britain and Russia were sort of jostling for influence. So British intelligence did a lot of work over there. And his grandfather used to say to him, he said, listen, Robert, if you're ever going to learn a language, learn Turkish, because you get like 9 languages for free. Which is, simplifying it a little bit. It's not like you learn Turkish and you can, instantly have a conversation with a Kazakh. Yeah. But it will give you a little sort of a foothold.
Little edge.
So, so like all those Turkic languages, like I don't know exactly the level of mutual intelligibility, but I mean, you have like Uzbek, you have Kazakh, you have Turkmen, Uyghur, Turkish, Azerbaijani. So they're all related to, varying extents. Yeah. So if you speak any of those, then Kazakh, you probably find, maybe easy
similar
enough. To me, like, I look at it and I say, Jesus Christ, like, fucking grammar is odd and pronunciation is, it would take some work.
Yeah.
So when I was going over, I said, no, fuck it. Okay, I'm going to just focus on Russian. Because Russian is basically the lingua franca there, as it is across all of Central Asia. In fact, Russian is a very useful language, I think, depending on the part of the world you want to travel in. I think there was some guy posted a question on the BJJ Globetrotters page or, Facebook group there about a month or so ago, just saying, hey, if you were to recommend, say, 3 languages, the 3 most useful languages for traveling around the world, what would you recommend, just out of interest? And I said, well, obviously it depends on the part of the world that you're traveling in. Like, if you're traveling in South America, hey, don't focus on Mandarin, it's probably not going to get you too far. But like Russian, like, in terms of the breadth of, the world that will get you across. Like, I mean, you've got Russia itself, obviously, you got a lot of Eastern Europe, and basically all of Central Asia, like all of those countries, like all the stans. Yeah. Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, like all of those countries that used to be part of first of all, the Russian Empire and then the USSR. It's basically the lingua franca. The language of government, the language of commerce. Russian will basically get you from, the east of Germany, basically over to North Korea. So if that's the part of the world you're interested in traveling in, Russian is definitely worth working on. So, like, Russian, it's not easy. Like, for an English speaker, it's it's tough. Like, the grammar is odd and the alphabet is obviously completely different.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but compared to Kazakh, it was the easy option.
Yeah.
So I made a choice and I said, okay, I'm just going to focus on picking up a little bit of Russian. And I looked at the Duolingo course, like Duolingo in general.
Duolingo is the best place to start.
Yeah, it's completely free as well. Yeah. Like, I thought when I first started using it, I thought, okay, they'll let you do a module or 2, but then they're going to start hitting you with advertisements.
Yeah, totally free.
Completely free. Like, Duolingo, excellent language learning resource. The Russian course is relatively new. I think it's only been up there maybe 7 or 8 months. So it's still in beta stage, if I remember right. But and again, I'm not that proficient by any means, so I can only judge it to a certain extent. But I found it really useful. Memrise as well is another.
I love Memrise. I actually like Memrise better than Duolingo, but I like, but they don't have as much content.
No, and I think because of Memrise comes from so many different creators, like the standard. And the approach, it varies, whereas Duolingo is more kind of uniform, so you know what you're getting.
For people who have never done either one, the difference is Duolingo is kind of like your standard, we'll show you, you'll go through basic grammar and they'll tell you this is how you say this and, so on and so forth. And it's it's kind of a standard, it's similar to Rosetta Stone. It kind of like a discount Rosetta Stone in a way is what it reminded me of. Whereas Memrise, they focus much more on getting things into your long-term memory.
Visual aids. They use a lot of visual aids to.
So they do they'll give you a meme or something that'll help you remember the words. So when I was learning Polish, one of the words that I struggled with at first is przepraszam, which is excuse me or sorry. It's Entschuldigung in Deutsch. And I was how do you say this? Przepraszam. And then they had a picture of a ship. And it was ship or a sham.
Yeah, they do that. They'll use just little visual aids to try and get the pronunciation or the meaning to stick in your head, and then all of a sudden, it's in there in your long-term memory. Yeah. So I use Memrise to learn the alphabet because I thought they give you plenty of little. I was fuck, what's that letter? How do you pronounce that letter? And then the visual aid will be a hat. It's it looks kind of like a hat, so it's 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 this H sound. So
it makes it really easy to learn. Yeah, but they only go so far. They only do basic stuff just because they're so new and they haven't had time. Like you said, it's a user created, people send in memes and stuff that they created and then they get posted. So it only can take you so far. But I did their whole Polish course, which is not much, but it was enough. It was decent. That's how I was able to learn how to pronounce some of those impossible to pronounce words and stuff.
Like it's neither of them are going to make you fluent, but they're a nice little. They'll get you started. They'll get you off the ground, and then like in your case, like you were there in Poland and you're immersed in it.
Yeah.
So it'll just give you maybe that little bit of confidence to try things out and start speaking yourself. And same with me. It just gave me a little, like the baby steps of Russian. If I was living in Russia or living in a Russian-speaking country, then I could start, improving. Duolingo or Memrise, again, you're not going to be, you're probably not going to be holding conversations by the end of it, but excellent way to like break the back of it and
break the ice.
Get the basics. So I used a combination of those two just to pick up some phrases. And learn the alphabet was you need to learn the alphabet. Because if you don't know how to read Cyrillic, like you can't even read street signs. Like you're trying to figure out, hang on, what street am I on? Like I have my, say, hotel reservation from booking.com, let's say, which is in English. And I'm trying to find the name of this street, but then I'm looking at the street signs, which are all in Cyrillic. And if you don't know how to read those, like you can't even read it out. Yeah. So that would be an absolute minimum. I would say is like learn how to read Cyrillic. And then on top of that, whatever else you can pick up. But when I was trying to book my train ticket, like I was on the Kazakh Rail website and, you had a choice of Russian and Kazakh. So I was like, fuck it. Okay. So Russian's probably the easy option here. Tried to book ticket, after like 30 minutes of, pasting words into Google Translate, and then eventually got to the payment page, and then they wouldn't accept my credit card because it was foreign. You need like a Kazakh credit card. So basically what I did is like I printed off the timetable and circled like in big red letters, like this is where I'm going, this is the time I needed that, this is the, and I just go up to the counter and just like pull this and like pointed at it and it was like, billet. I was like, billet? Just like, ticket. That was it. I was communicating like Tarzan with pictures. Tarzan with the ability to hopefully draw for like 2 weeks or so, and it did the trick.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't you post on Facebook while you were there? You were like, hey, if any Russian speakers are on Facebook, I could really use your help right about that.
That was just before it, and that was the Rail website, because I kept getting this fucking error message that I couldn't understand, and it was a pop-up, so I couldn't paste it into Google Translate, so I was convinced I was doing everything correct. And I'd click like submit, and I kept getting this error message. So I put out like a general appeal for
SOS
for everyone. So no, it's I know like 20 words or 25 words of Russian, but it was enough to get by. It was enough to have like a 6 or 7 hour conversation with this guy.
How much that'll take you? How far that'll take you if you like really commit?
Yeah. Like if you're just like if you're willing to, because I know some people that just like when they encounter a language they don't understand, like they just shut down and it's like no, I don't get this. I don't know this language. I don't know this word. No, and I just fucking listen. It's like it's not that different. Like. Using Russian as an example, it is quite different from English, but it's still a European language. So you will hear links in there between, words that appear in English, like particularly older words, like words in German, like billet, ticket. It's like, fucking any German should be able to understand that. So if you just open your ears, like you will hear links, even despite that, you're 4,000 miles away and it looks very foreign because of the alphabet, but there are links there.
Yeah.
And also, if you're just willing to, just mime a bit, like, act like Tarzan, point and draw pictures, you'll get through things. That was the train journey. And then I got down to Almaty, which is the old capital in the south. I still don't know why it's the old capital. I don't know why they switched. It was the old capital for, a long time. And then all of a sudden they were just like, nah, fuck this. We have a new capital now up in the north. Astana just means capital, by the way. So they weren't even that imaginative when it came to renaming it. I don't know why. Like I Googled it and I know when they did it. It was in the early 90s, but like no one has been able to tell me why. So again, if anyone is out there and then you know why, the Kazakh government decided to just say, no, fuck you, Almaty. Capital is now in Astana. I would be very curious to know.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, the president just decided. But the president, the current and only president of the Independent Republic of Kazakhstan, by the way, as I realized in the first museum that I went to, I was like, oh, wow, this guy... Nazarbayev is like Nursultan Nazarbayev is his name. And he was elected president in 1992, and he has been the president ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
He must be doing great.
He's pretty dedicated, isn't he? He's so selfless that he just like took that burden on himself.
Oh, man.
Anyway, every single election, like 98% of the vote. I think there's not a single election in Kazakhstan since independence that has met like international standards. So there's some, I think as Joe Rogan would say, there's some fuckery afoot in the background there, surely. I don't know what the average Kazakh thinks of him, but he's been there since 1992. And, when you've had like one president of a country for 20 years, it rarely suggests that he just has a good work ethic. Mm-hmm. There's, more...
something going on.
There's a little bit of nonsense going on in the background. Like in general, like you're walking around and like you don't get this sense of it being, some like authoritarian dictatorship or anything like that. But there is problems. Like freedom of the press is a disaster. Like, there's this organization, Reporters Without Frontiers, I think it is.
Reporters Without Borders.
Without Borders, sorry, that's the one, yeah. And, they have that ranking of like international press freedom, and like Kazakhstan is basically near the bottom, 160 out of 168. So freedom of the press is pretty much a disaster. They've had some human rights problems too. So they have this plan, because I was in so many museums over there. I was kind of picking up on
the history.
Or even, things that I wouldn't usually be that interested in, like, economic policies and things like that. But they have this plan called, I think it's Kazakhstan 2050. Or Kazakhstan 2030, one possibly even, to develop Kazakhstan to an extent that it would be like one of the top 30 most developed countries in the world by, let's say, I think it's 2050. And on the surface of things, you can say, okay, there's a huge amount of construction going on in the cities. There's new buildings. They're the wealthiest country in Central Asia because they've got so much oil and mineral resources because, they're so huge. But then you look at things like, you've had one president since 1992 and you've got no freedom of the press. So there's going to be some hurdles there. Like becoming a developed country is not as simple as
build new buildings.
Yeah. We have, look at our fancy new city. Yeah. Or, there are other things that
certain like moral, cultural practices that happen as a result.
Yeah, basically, like
ideally.
Yeah. So I don't know how that is going to work out. I don't know how long Nazarbayev will decide to hold on to this presidential position. I don't know what the average Kazakh thinks of him, but he's all over the place. Like you see his quotes on the side of buildings. Every museum I went into, there's like a statue of him in the lobby. He has his own museum, which is a weird place. I was the only person, I think, visiting that day. And, it's very quiet and it's very, it was like,
solemn?
Very solemn. Like you have to put, like shoe covers on, these plastic shoe covers.
You're on holy ground.
Yeah, so you don't scuff up the floor. I was the only person there, and you're walking around and, all the info was in, Kazakh or Russian. So I just said, hey, you have any English information? And they had an audio guide, which, like the headphones were falling apart. And, the woman who was recording it, like she was clearly just like reading off a script, and like every second word was mispronounced and it was like crackly, okay, this is not exactly helping much. But every room you go into, there's just like one very, very solemn, usually like a tiny Kazakh woman, in like a full like suit, like business wear, like immaculately done up, and they're just standing there. And then, I kind of come onto the floor and I'm looking around, and then they sort of gesture and you say, this way, please. So they're sort of directing which way you walk around the museum. And then, you'll go into an exhibition room and you're looking, and then you might hear like a little, like a scuffle behind you. And then you see like they're looking around the door just to make sure that you're not being too foreign and subversive or disrespectful or taking photos or something. But it's fucking weird.
That's
like,
very weird.
You're the only person in this museum, and you have these like ghosts just following you.
Fucking weird. It's a unique place to be, though.
Yeah, interesting. Like really, like the museums there were generally excellent. Like there was a lot of legitimately good like ethnographic and anthropological exhibitions and info. But Nazarbayev's museum is more just like, hey, this guy is like best president ever. Look at all this stuff that he did. Look at all these awards that he got. You know, blah blah blah. And you're like, yeah, 98% approval rating. I see. So
that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. I mean, that's a very weird place to be.
It's a little bit surreal. A little bit, just that kind of post-communist stereotype where it's like everything is very like po-faced and serious.
Yeah.
But as I said, I'm really glad that I went. I did some hiking when I was down in Almaty, like up into the mountains. Very different landscape from what I was expecting, because like I was thinking Kazakhstan, Central Asia, you've got like open steppe, desert.
Yeah.
But down in the south, like where you're getting close to the border with Kyrgyzstan, and then over into the east, you have the border with China. It's very mountainous, and up hiking there, it's basically alpine territory. Like, if you put me down in the middle of it and told me, okay, where are you? I'd be like, I don't know, Switzerland or Austria. Like, it's completely different from the rest of the country. So I hiked up there, spent like 2 nights in the mountains. It's the highest that I've gotten so far personally, like up until 3,400 meters. And it's the first time I ever kind of started feeling the effects of altitude when I was hiking. Just like so hard to get a breath in.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of, like the sauna bunker in Leuven, like at that BJJ Globetrotters camp. Like the one thing I noticed there is like in between rolls, just could not get like a satisfying lungful of air because it was like so heavy and it was so sweaty and so humid. Like but it's like, okay, I'll take 60 seconds and then I can roll again. And then 10 minutes later, you're still like, fuck, okay, maybe I just take another minute or so.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed, like when I was going up into the hills there, like I was going up the, just up some escarpment and had some, I don't know, like a 15 kilo pack on my back. So, I mean, not hugely heavy, but I had to stop like every 10 steps or so. I'm just like, try and get a breath. And okay, fuck, I'm just going to stand here and like take another,
couple minutes or so.
Yeah, another few photos, just like kind of like try and delude myself into thinking that I'm not getting old. But I know, like beautiful scenery up there. No one else around. I didn't get arrested, which I thought could be a possibility. Yeah, because they had this, all these like fucking off-limit border regions, but they refuse to tell you exactly where they are. Like the whole thing that sort of inspired it was last year, Kazakhstan, relaxed its visa restrictions. So citizens of something like 25 or 30 countries can now get in without the need for a visa beforehand.
Oh, cool.
So things like, I think, American citizens, German citizens, French, like basically any country in Western Europe you can think of, you don't need to apply for a visa beforehand. Oh, cool. You can just show up, you can say, hey, I'm a tourist, you get your stamp, and you can stay for, 60 days or whatever. Yeah. Unfortunately, Irish citizens are not included in this. Oh, man.
Troublemakers.
Yeah, something. Or usually what happens is that they've forgotten about us. Because like an Irish passport is generally really good. Like it'll get you in almost anywhere. Because like we're a like small neutral country, no colonial history. So, no one dislikes us generally. Usually either someone likes us or they have never heard of us. Yeah. And I think it was the latter in this case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were probably relaxing their visa restrictions and they said, okay, have we got everyone? America, check. Germany, check. France, check. It's like, cool. Check said, close the book. That's
Czech
it.
Republic,
yeah,
check.
And we're like, no. So I had to go up to Berlin and get my visa. And I mean, it's not that expensive. It's like 30 euro, 35 euro, but it's just like pain in the ass. Like you got to go to the embassy. You got to deal with the whole, post-Soviet paperwork bullshit. Like
you got to go to Berlin. It's far.
Yeah, there is one in Frankfurt as well, but I don't know if they would give because when I thought I was going to Mongolia, I specifically emailed their embassy because they got an embassy in Berlin and they have a consulate in Frankfurt. And I said, hey, can I go to Frankfurt? Because that would be kind of cool. Yeah. And I said, no, got to go to Berlin. So I was going to Berlin anyway to visit a friend. So I said, I'll just go I'll go and I'll check it out there. But it's just a pain in the ass. Like you have like so much fucking paperwork. Like you need to give them a copy of your itinerary, of your flights. I think I had health insurance, my hotel bookings, all this stuff. And you're behind like a glass thing with one of those like shitty loud, intercom systems, which doesn't filter anything out. So if there's 3 conversations going on behind this glass compartment, you hear all of them at the same level. So I'm hearing, no, especially because 2 of those conversations are in Russian. And then there's this woman with really thick Russian accented German talking to me. So basically every 8th word I'm able to hear and understand and figure out what she's looking for. So I just kind of threw paperwork at her and my passport, and yeah, I think the more paperwork I gave her, the happier she got. And eventually I got my visa.
That's good.
Yeah, eventually. But that was my first experience with the post-Soviet embassy staff. And it's they're not too pushed to do things quickly. It's the best way I can put it. So if you were ever, if anyone ever needs a visa for Kazakhstan or anywhere,
give it some time.
Region, give it some time. Give yourself the day. It might not be the kind of thing you can just go in and get done quickly before lunch. But I got the visa, no problem, no bullshit. After I threw the paperwork at her, but because of this whole visa relaxing thing, someone in the Kazakh government at some point obviously panicked, and they were like, "Oh shit, we're gonna have possibly all these waves of new foreigners coming in. We got to do something about this. We got to make sure that they don't cause problems in any of the border regions." So they implemented this rule that anywhere within 25 kilometers of a national border is off limits to foreigners. If you're a Kazakh citizen, no problem. But you're not allowed to go there as a foreigner. Maybe as part of a registered tour group or something, but you're not allowed to go on your own. And then someone else in the Kazakh government, maybe a few months afterwards, raised their head and they were like, yeah, okay, but just so you know, a lot of the popular tourist attractions are within 25 kilometers of a border. So you're letting all of these people in and then you're telling them that they can't go to the places that they might want to go and see. So they said, okay, let's compromise. So some regions near a border will be off limits and will result in you getting arrested, but others won't. And we're not going to put them on a map and we're not going to let you know. We're just going to randomly assign off limits. This is okay. Off limits. This is okay.
Oh man.
So
that's not efficient.
Yeah, kind of this, bureaucratic Russian roulette. You're wondering, shit, okay, can I go to this mountain? Can I go to that mountain? Is this lake okay? So where I was hiking was definitely, it was within 25k of the border. It was very close to the border with Kyrgyzstan. So I was like, okay, I could very well be walking into one of these regions. I can't figure out. There's no signs. There's no warnings. There's nothing online. There's no tourist information because the Kazakh tourist website basically just seems to be one kind of old malfunctioning GeoCities page that, has still its 1996 graphics on it and is not that helpful at all. So I just said, okay, fuck it. Let's go try it out. Fingers crossed I don't get picked up by some border patrol who will either just arrest me or say, oh, hey, maybe if you give us €100,
we'll let you go.
We'll just pretend I was told before going over there that listen, corruption is quite high. If you get stopped by a cop, just try and make sure you have everything in order, your passport, because otherwise it'll be, oh, sorry man, you don't have the right stamp. Guess we got to go down to the station. Or, hey, did I see €20 in your wallet? Then maybe I can just look the other way. So I was told, as a foreigner, you're kind of a walking piggy bank in some cases. I had no problems at all when I was over there. No one, on the train, no one, whatever. It was all.
That's great.
Fine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was, less, no pain in the ass that I had to deal with. But, border patrol, I thought it could be a different story. If I'm in a restricted area. But again, no problems. There was no signs. So I assume the area I was in was okay, or else, who knows, maybe I was in a restricted area and just no one caught me. But beautiful mountains. I can recommend it. Probably many people who would go to Kazakhstan or Central Asia, you might just see the grassland, the steppe, depending on where you are. But the mountains are beautiful as well, so I would recommend that. Just try and maybe take a little detour and go and have a look. And then I got back down from the mountains and went to the ADCCs.
How was that? Yeah,
it was interesting. I found it just completely by chance when I was trying to find somewhere to train.
Yeah,
one of the first Google results that came up was ADCC Kazakhstan, and they had this event, published right at the top. So I was like, oh, okay, it's in Almaty. I'll be in Almaty when it's on. Why not? I'll go along and check it out. And, like, the thought briefly crossed my mind is like, oh man, will I register? Is like go and, compete at a tournament? But it's not. It's off, because it's a regional qualifier. You have to be a citizen of an Asian country.
Oh, okay.
So, or Pacific countries. So Australia, New Zealand as well. So I went along and, beautiful facilities, really well organized. Everything ran like according to plan. Very limited, how do I put it? Like very few countries there. Like considering it's meant to be the Asian qualifiers
for Abu Dhabi.
In
Finland.
In Finland next year. So it's meant it covers they had all the flags up of all the countries that could potentially enter. So basically any country in Asia, think of, which is a sizable chunk of the planet.
Yeah.
But I would say 95% of the competitors there were either from Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan. There was, I think, one Korean that I saw. There was 3 Australians and one guy from Georgia. But that was it. Everyone else, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. So I was thinking, it's understandable in a sense because, the distances are so
huge.
So huge, yeah. The ADCC Europe, the ones that were on in Mainz there, 3 or 4 weeks or so ago. I think the number of nationalities represented there was
huge.
I think 28 or something huge. Like that, 28 different countries. But, you can see why, because Europe, it's easy to get around. Pretty much any city, you could hold those trials in, any city you want. And it's probably going to be maximum, a 3.5 hour, 4 hour flight.
Yeah.
Probably just hop on some cheap Ryanair thing, take a long weekend, go and compete, and then you're back in your everyday life and at your job on Monday morning.
Not very inconvenient.
Yeah, and there's very little time difference as well. You're not going to be jet lagged. You just go, you fight on a Saturday, check out the city that night, and then you're back at your job on Monday. But Asia is, different obviously. Those guys who came from Australia, Australia to Kazakhstan, that's you need a visa. You need an international flight. You have a serious time difference to deal with.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
And, expense as well. You got to pay to register. You got to pay for your accommodation. You got to pay for the visa. You got to pay for your living expense. Yeah, so if you want to go and compete there, you have got to be dedicated.
And you got to be pretty sure you're going to win.
Yeah, you don't want to go and get fucking knocked out in the first round. Because, I mean, that's probably $1,000 at least that you've just spent to get there. Whereas Europe, it's I just get some Ryanair flight, €50 to Frankfurt.
You could even drive. A lot of people
could drive.
Road trip.
Hence why there was 28 countries at the one in Mainz recently, and there were only 4 nationalities at the Asian trials in Kazakhstan. So, I mean, it's understandable because of the huge distances and the expense involved.
I feel Australia needs its own ADCC.
This is what I was thinking.
They're a continent.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking, because I was because as a result, you look at the winners table, all Kazakh or Kyrgyz. So, I mean, there's a lot of athletes that were probably legitimately really good grapplers.
Yeah, Japan, I know.
Yeah, no one from Japan at all. You have an Asian grappling trial. There's no one from Japan there. There's no one from Thailand there. And there's a huge
Mongolia is very good.
Yeah, there's no Mongol guys either. Nothing. So you have a lot of probably really strong grapplers that were excluded from the possibility to qualify just because of the expense and the time involved.
That's a lot.
So I think when you're talking about a territory as vast as Asia, and then they just kind of throw Australia and New Zealand in as well.
Yeah,
I think
they need their own.
Realistically, you should have more regional qualifiers, one for East Asia, maybe one for Central Asia, one for Australia, New Zealand, because otherwise, you say, okay, you're from New Zealand, you're kind of good. Yeah, sorry man, you got to fly to Almaty. On the other side of the planet, you got to pay for a visa.
That's crazy. That's nuts. This is me showing my ignorance, but does Africa have ADCC? I didn't think so.
No, they have to go to the European ones. I looked this up specifically, so that is Africa could do with its own qualifier. I mean, I don't know. There wouldn't be the demand for it. There was one South African guy.
Yeah, South Africa. I think BJJ has a decent. Representative.
Yeah. There's a lot of gyms in South Africa that I know of, and there was one guy who came along to compete in Mainz there a few weeks ago. So, in that regard, he had to, for him it was just as much expense and just as much time as, you know, the guys coming from Australia to Kazakhstan. But yeah, like I think, you know, when you look at that winners table and basically everyone from Asia who qualified, you know, Kazakh or Kyrgyz.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, that's not really representative of the Asian grappling
There's so
scene.
much
Like,
talent in Asia.
You've probably just lost like, you know, no one from Japan. Like no one, there's so many good like MMA and Nogi camps in Thailand these days.
Jeez.
None of them were
Thailand and Japan need to be represented for sure. They should have one in. Okay, you and I, we're going to take over ADCC.
Yeah, it's like, by all means, ADCC organizers, listen to us who have never put on a tournament in our lives. But,
we have a lot of experience doing this. I think that there needs to be one in Australia. Keep the one in Kazakhstan. We need to have one in South Africa. We need to have one in. We need to have one in South America, right? Do they have a South American?
Yeah, they have. I think a North American and a South American trial.
See, this is showing my ignorance.
As far as I know,
I think they do because I know the North America. It's called the North American trial.
Yeah, so it's North American, South American, Europe, and Asia. So they have the 4 regional trials.
Yeah, and then you got to have one in maybe China or not, maybe Japan or something like that.
I would say even just like more like East Asia, Central Asia. Australia, New Zealand, just like spread it up a little, or spread it out a little bit more. Because then,
let's be nice here.
Yeah, you're losing a lot of talent. I think you're losing a lot of potentially very good people just because say they can't afford to take the time off work.
Yeah, that's a lot. And they can't afford the flight.
But no, like very well run tournaments. I'm glad I went just to see what it was like, and
Did you do any training outside of that?
I did, yeah. When I went back up to Astana, it was hard enough trying to find a school because, like, when I'm traveling and I Google, you know, BJJ, insert city name or insert country name or whatever, usually the first thing I'm looking for is a Facebook page.
Right.
Because
that's the best place to find
it. It's good, and you can see, you know, like, say you come across a website and, you know, okay, there'll be maybe a training timetable there and a location and maybe an email address, but I don't know how up to date it is. I don't know, like, is this website just been here for the past 2 years? Like, is this training timetable current? Like, Facebook, you can see if people have been posting to it recently, like photos from training session last week. So it's like, okay, so there's still...
So they come.
Exactly, yeah. And you can see, like, you know, sometimes when you go to message someone, you can see... how quickly they respond.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, they have a high response rate, so you can see, okay, so if I send this guy a question, he's probably going to get back to me quickly. So for me, like a Facebook page with location, training times, and just the ability to message someone and say, hey, do you mind if I come along? It's perfect. Like, that's all that I look for when I'm traveling. And the first hurdle that I ran into when I was looking for places in Kazakhstan is that, number one, they don't use Facebook.
No, I don't.
It's they have this thing called VK. VK is like, it's the Russian Facebook, essentially, or for the Russian speaking world. So that's everywhere. You'd be walking around and you see, you know, shops or restaurants, and, you know, here you'd have like a little, like the Facebook, you know, follow us on Facebook, whatever. Over there it's VK. So number one, I couldn't find any Facebook pages. Number two, okay, you know, VK, like when I was able to find the VK page,
it's in Russian.
It's all in Russian. And again, my ability to order a coffee didn't really come in handy there. So I would come to the page and I would be trying to find training times, and I'd be trying to figure out and say, how do you fucking message someone on this thing, and how up to date is it? Because I was coming across some clubs that, you know, you see like the last post was from, you know, 3 years ago, and I think that's probably not still there. So it took me a lot longer to even just figure out who's there, where are they. And then eventually I found one website and Facebook combination for the local Atos.
Oh, cool.
In Astana. And it was about a 20-minute walk from my hotel.
Oh, that's great.
I walked over, and again, I was trying to figure out, is like, look, okay, I'm going to assume that they don't speak any English. And I was trying to work out, like, okay, my few little bits of vocabulary, just basic stuff like traveler or train or whatever. And then I was trying to think, like, okay, how will I mime this out? It's like, I'm in town for a few nights. Can I come and train with you? Blah, blah, blah. But as it turned out, no, there was like the woman behind the desk. She spoke, like, her English was like more than enough. Oh, and I was able to say, hey, look, you know, I'm in town, purple belt, BJJ, can I just come and train with you? And she was like, yeah. And like, she was really happy. She was like, man, this is so cool. Like, you know, because I was probably like so exotic to them, like from Ireland, like from the other side of the world, this little island.
the nether regions.
Yeah, so we're like, wow, this is really cool. You know, we never have people coming to visit us. So yeah, you know, training times or blah, blah, blah. Just come along, no problem. So went and trained with those guys, and it was a no-gi session. Good facilities, like proper like mats and everything. I was thinking, you know, it could be just
who knows,
community hall where you have to like put down gymnastics mats or something beforehand, but like proper dedicated facilities, like proper mats, like padded walls and everything. A lot of guys there too. There's probably about 20 guys that night. It was a Tuesday as well. So, you know, sometimes I think, it's going to be like a midweek session.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be too busy. But 20, 25 guys.
That's awesome.
The trainer is brown belt. I think Kanat was his name. And, I mean, you know how it is, like, in Poland when you're starting out, is, like, you don't know any, like, what was that fucking word? And you have to try and look around. It's like, that's the warm-up that we're doing, so you just copy.
Yep.
But even by the end of the class, I was starting to pick up, like, the little bits of vocabulary. Like, I think you were saying, like, what's the Polish word for push-ups again?
Punku.
Punku, yeah.
Yeah, punku.
That's
I learned that one very well.
Yeah, that's going to be in your long-term memory for quite some time. And for me, I think the Russian word for takedown was something like rakyot. I think rakyot. And robota means work. If someone's being lazy and they're shouting robota, it's like, fuck, I gotta work for that.
In Polish, they say dawaj, which I think it's a Russian.
I think it's in Russian.
It means like go, or like come here, or it can mean many things.
Yeah, we gotta look this up. But even by the end of one class, you know, because I think actually the last time we did this podcast, we were talking about like traveling and how it can be potentially intimidating if you don't know the language. You're like, I don't speak, insert language here. But it's like, listen, just go along and you'll see.
Yeah,
like,
you speak jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So you've seen it all before. You know what's going to happen. Like, you'll get through it.
Yeah, but listen, just look around and say, okay, so we're doing push-ups now, or we're doing shrimps, or we're doing whatever.
Figure it out.
Just copy. Yeah.
And a lot of the times the words are. I don't know. I don't know how Kazakhstan was, but Kazakhstan. Sorry, but I don't know how it was, but. A lot of the words are the same. Like, there's only like, if you're going to say omoplata, like, I'm pretty sure everyone around the world calls it omoplata, things like, for example, or,
like the jiu-jitsu specific terminology, like a triangle is generally a triangle or a triangle or, something fairly close like that.
Yeah, like you'll be able to kind of pick it up for the most part. There's only so many ways. It's so funny though. So they in Poland, they named so many of their moves after famous people. So like an ankle lock, they call it a Taktarov after Oleg Taktarov. Yeah, after Oleg Taktarov, cool. Because he had a crazy ankle lock. So the ankle lock is called the Taktarov. The one, if we had video I could show, the one where you're like in a like a push-up stance and then you like sit through, we call them like sit-outs.
Sit-outs.
We call them like sit-outs. They call them Hicksons. Because Hickson in his documentary Choke, he's like doing them on the beach or something. So they call them
yoga
Hicksons.
session on the beach.
They call them Hicksons. So things like that. Like, so you're like, what do you mean do a Hickson? And they're like, this. Cool. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But you pick things up very quickly. So if you're ever traveling and you're you're curious to try out training somewhere, don't let the language stop you.
Yeah.
And I said, like in many cases, there will be someone who can translate into English, like even the basic terms. And if you're training on any kind of a regular basis, like you'll have picked up like jiu-jitsu specific Polish or Russian or whatever by the end of the week, no problem. Good guys too. Like in terms of rank, like BJJ specific rank, I think there was like the trainer was a brown belt. There was one other purple belt there. Everyone else, it was a no-gi session, so I was just trying to like work it out based on, when we lined up at the end, they do the whole line up by rank thing. So I would guess like blue belts, white belts, like everyone else.
Yeah.
But, like there's a strong wrestling tradition there.
Yeah, I know.
So, in terms of BJJ rank, you might look at it and you're like, man, they're like loads of blue belts, but fuck, they're good. They're like really scrambly, lots of pressure. They don't accept anything. I noticed that. Like even the white belts, like, you pass their guard, you get them into side control, and sometimes, you can see they're just like, fuck, I got my guard passed. I'm just going to relax and get my breath back and take it easy. It's like, nah, they don't accept anything. They'll always like try and explode out of it, but like explode in an intelligent way. They're not spazzing around and smacking you in the face.
Very competitive.
Yeah. I would guess like a lot of them probably come from like more of a wrestling background, and then they just like, move to BJJ at some point. So in terms of just rank, in terms of pure BJJ rank, I think there's one black belt in the country, as far as I know. Because I think at the ADCCs, there was like people were handing out flyers. There was one for a seminar, and I think Kazakhstan's like only or first BJJ black belt. So I think there's one in the country. But like the standard of grappling in general, very high. Because like, they've had like their traditional styles for centuries, like all those Central Asian countries like Mongolia.
Mongolia's the same.
Yeah, they've, it's all like, I mean, it's not really ground fighting per se, because I mean, most like folk wrestling styles, it's just about getting the guy off his feet.
Yeah.
And then once he hits the ground, that's it, you've won. Yeah. So it's not really ground fighting per se, but they've had like grappling for a long, long time. Yeah. Still do. So yeah, the like levels of grappling quite high. Ridiculous pressure. I rolled with one guy, like my final roll of the night was with this guy's in his 40s, like maybe early 50s or whatever, freestyle wrestling and sambo coach. And I think like probably the most unpleasant role I've ever had, just in terms of like the pressure. There's just like fucking shoulders everywhere. Like, it reminded me of, those old, like, Acme cartoons where, like, Wile E. Coyote just gets flattened by a rock. Like, that's what I felt like afterwards. Just like this steamroller had just run over me. I mean, like, really nice guys, no assholes. Like, no one's, like, aggro trying to, like, fucking beat up the visitor. But just, like, pressure, really good, solid, like, solid pressure, scrambles and everything. So, yeah, worth it. I like training when I'm kind of out on the road. So I'm glad I got to, like, add that, like, tick Kazakhstan off the list.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing the show again.
Yeah, hey, no worries.
We'll have you on again after your next grand adventure. Where are you going next?
I mean, I need to wait for vacation days and money, most importantly of all, to recharge. Yeah. So nowhere particularly far-flung this year, at least. Next year, who knows? I haven't even started thinking. This year, maybe I'm thinking Malta, just for a short trip. Because, again, like I get a lot of ideas from books, and I was reading a book not too long ago called Empires of the Sea, which is about like the kind of clashes between the Ottoman Empire and like the kind of states of like Christian Europe, for lack of a better word, back in medieval times. And I was like, oh, Malta, yeah, cool. You can get there. There's cheap flights from Baden-Baden, small island, hire a car, drive around, check out the history. There is a BJJ club there. I've found it already. So
that's the first thing you got to look at.
Basically, I'll try and like tick that off the list as well. So maybe Malta later in the year.
Sounds awesome. Well, thanks a lot for coming here and hanging out. And let's cook some steaks.
Yeah, let's cook some fucking steaks.
Thanks again to Ruadhan for being on the show, and thanks to all you guys for listening. Please check us out at TrekJitsu.com for a full list of show notes about everything we talked about in this show. Please check us out, too, on Facebook or on Instagram at TrekJitsu. We're also on Twitter at TrekJitsu_pod, as in POD, the rap group. Also, please, if you enjoyed this show, go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and a review. That's a really great way to help iTunes better calculate our searches, or if people are searching for us, they can find it more easily and things like that. So it's a great way to support the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Again, TrekJitsu is brought to you by Matrix. Matrix is a jiu-jitsu streaming service that we are bringing to you to showcase sparring footage from all over the world. We would love to have sparring footage that you send in from your sparring sessions at your training, whether that be wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, or whatever it is you practice. We'd love to have it. So if you're interested, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/showyourroll. That's a great way to contact us and figure out what it is we're looking for. And we have instructions there about how to film videos properly and things like that. But it's not hard at all. We would really like it if this could become like an art gallery for jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is a martial art, and we want to kind of showcase the art side of that. So would really love it if you checked us out at youtube.com/showyourroll. And once again, thank you to Waves Overhead. Waves Overhead provides all the music for TrekJitsu. And their song, To Make Amends, is the official TrekJitsu theme song. So check them out at wavesoverhead.bandcamp.com, and you can download all of their music and send them some money to support them on their musical quest. Once again, that's wavesoverhead.bandcamp.com. And here is their song, To Make Amends.